This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Hello, everybody. This is Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio, and I hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and healthy. A lot of stuff going on in the world, but when we come here, we're going to escape for just a little bit. So that's why I bring on amazing authors. And a side note, it is National Sugar Cookie Day. So if you really like sugar cookies, grab some with your favorite beverage, whatever that might be, and grab a fabulous book by Nan Reinhardt. She is the USA best-selling author of sweet and sexy romance novels for older women. Writing is her first and most enduring passion, and she wrote her first romance novel at the age of 10. It involved a love story between the most sophisticated girl she knew at the time, which was her older sister who was in high school, and a member of Herman's Hermits. And if you know who the Herman's Hermits are, you are in good company because there's a lot of us, and we are all fabulous, and we all still love romance. She's still writing, but the viewpoint is on a wiser, slightly rumpled menopausal woman instead of a starry-eyed preteen. She's completed 9 novels with her newest series, The Four Irish Brothers Winery, from Tule Publishing. The most recent book, The Baby Contract, will come out next week on the 16th, so hit your pre-orders now. And you can find her on her website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome to the show, Nan Reinhardt. How are you today, my dear?
I'm good, Patricia. Thanks for having me today.
So let's go back to that very first romance you ever wrote. How long did it take you to write it, and how long was it?
We're not talking about the one I wrote when I was 10, right? We're talking about since I've been an adult?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Well,
I think, Either one. We got time to talk about both.
Oh, that's okay. We don't really want to go back to the Herman's Hermits.
Sounds fair.
The very first romance novel I wrote was not actually the very first one that was published.
Okay.
The very first one I wrote was Once More from the Top. It was the first book in my Women of Willow Bay series, and it got me an agent in New York, and she was just wonderful. She worked so hard to sell the book. The problem at that time, which that was about 2009 or so, and that was before seasoned romance was even a thing. And she tried so hard to sell that book, and we got so many great comments about my voice and the writing and how much the editors loved it, but they all said we can't sell a heroine who's 40, and we can't sell a kid who's 15. In that book, the heroine has a son who's 15. And they said we just can't do it. We can sell babies, we can sell younger people, but we can't sell that age group. So finally, I just kind of gave it up, and at that point in time, I was had become friends with Lonnie Diane Rich, who is a wonderful author, and she was at that time also doing book production, and so she helped me put that book up as an indie, and it had pretty good success, and so that was pretty much the first book I wrote. The very first one that was ever published was a book called Rule Number One. It was published in 2012 with Bookstrand, and it's still out there, but it isn't a seasoned romance. The heroine, I think she's 30. So anyway, that was the first one. The book Once More from the Top it meant so much to me because the hero, all my heroes are kind of beta guys. I don't do alphas very well because I don't know any alphas, to tell you the truth. My husband's kind of a beta guy. My kid's a beta guy. I kind of go for betas. And that hero, Liam, is a symphony conductor, which was what my agent, which was what made my agent fall in love with it, because she had never read a book about a romance about a symphony conductor before. So I've had a lot of fun with that book, and it takes place up in Michigan, which is my favorite place in the whole wide world. And I ended up with 3 more books in that series that all take place in this little town. So I kind of got into the small town romance thing with those.
Right. And I love that you really wanted that voice to be out there, because I think so often we forget, life doesn't stop at 35. Life doesn't stop at 38. I mean, 40 is a great age. And, we could talk about the benefits of it. And of course, there's also, not great things about it. But I mean, it's an age some people never get. So I think that talking about how different you see the world at 40 versus 25, it's like it can be a whole 180. And I really kind of love seeing that transition with authors. And your Women of Willow Bay, that's that whole series that you're talking about, of the seasoned, what you're calling seasoned romance. And
yes.
And so as you've written more, your tagline there is "Love Never Ages." And so as you've written more of these books, what has been the response from from readers?
I have just been delighted that readers have really loved the Women of Willow Bay, and a lot of my readers are, well over 40, and I get a lot of reader mail saying, "Gosh, thank you so much for writing heroines who are our age and who come from a place of experience in life." All 4 of those books are second chances, and the oldest heroine is 52, and she's about to become a grandmother. And people think that when you get to be a certain age, romance isn't really in your life. And I've been married for 47 years, and I can testify that romance is still in my life. And I know a lot of people who've had second and even third chances at romance, and starting again. And it we all want to be in love, and it doesn't matter how old we are.
Yeah. Oh, of course. What has been the biggest surprise from readers or reader feedback you've had with the Women of Willow Bay series?
Probably that they liked the sex, which in the books I've written since I finished the Women of Willow Bay series are sweet. They don't have sex in them. That was kind of the hardest thing to write, just because it's not something that I knew how to write beforehand. I just had to kind of fly by the seat of my pants and, go with what I knew. What can I say?
Right.
But I was surprised at how many people said, "Wow, you really captured the sensuality," as opposed they're not graphically sexy. They're more sensual sexy. And, I was kind of surprised at how many people, say to me, "Wow, I really love that about those books." And yet the same readers come back and say how much they love the 4 Irish Brothers Winery books, which have no sex in them at all. So I think, but they do have kind of a sensual, a sensuality about them. And so I think, the fact that I can bring that to my readers and they appreciate it, whether it's done, I don't want to say graphically, but, whether it's done with sex scenes or without them, that they still get that. So that's kind of a cool thing, I think.
Well, and it's interesting too, and you and I have both heard people have conversations about this and commentary, but romance books people aren't just reading it for the sex scenes. They're reading it for the journey and the sensuality and the sexual tension. And so, like you're saying, you don't necessarily have to have it on the page. It's not just they go at it on the kitchen table and everyone you could have that scene and everyone's like, wait, what's going on? I don't get it. Where if you build that sensuality, that's what everybody wants. The reader wants that.
Yes. I think that's true. I think that's true.
Yeah, and it's very cool that's the kind of feedback you're getting in both series that have a little bit of a different, open door versus, closed door or, fade to black type scenes. And that says a lot when you can reach out to readers like that and give them that full picture.
Well, I think that's very cool. A lot of what my appeal is to readers, and that sounds like such a weird thing to say, but I think that what appeals to my readers is the community that I build. Willow Bay, there was a definite sense of small town and community. It's an even greater sense of small town and community in the 4 Irish Brothers books. And with all this, I love creating secondary characters. I just have so much fun with that. And in both books, although there's more of it in Four Irish Brothers, it's just been fun to build that sense of community. And I'm loving that with the Four Irish Brothers, readers are saying, we hate that this is the fourth book, and we want more. And as it happens, they're going to get more. So it's kind of cool that I get to continue writing more stories in this little town that the Four Irish Brothers Winery is in. So
right.
I'm really excited about that. That's a little announcement, by the way.
Ooh, exciting! So when you have the small town in Michigan for the Willow Bay series, but then you have the Four Irish Brothers, and they're in Ohio, right?
No, they're in southern Indiana. On the Ohio River.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me why these different spots. Are these places that you've been and loved? Family from there? What inspires you to put them there?
Well, as it happens, the Michigan one, when I was a kid, my mother would take us camping to Michigan almost every weekend in the summer. We couldn't really afford fancy vacations, but we had an old beat-up camping trailer, and she would take me and my sisters and brother, and we'd go up and camp in places like Muskegon and Ludington and Grand Haven and places like that. And at least once a summer, we would go up to the Frankfort, Michigan area, which is just a little south of Traverse City. And there's a lake there called Crystal Lake, and there's a Christian camp there that we would go and participate in. And I just fell in love with that area. And so when my husband and I got married, we went up to Michigan on our honeymoon, and I just, I was so excited to show him everywhere and see everything that I did as a kid. And when I wanted to write a story about this conductor who was in my head, Interlochen Music Camp, which is up in that area, just felt like a natural fit for him and for their story. And so I made Frankfort Willow Bay. It's the inspiration for Willow Bay, Frankfort, Michigan. Yeah. And I went up there several times to do research and to walk the beach and be inspired. And I fell in love with Michigan all over again. Michigan is my hometown, I just love Michigan. Yeah. Although I've never lived in Michigan. I've always lived in Indiana, but I just love Michigan. But when it came time to write the Four Irish Brothers Winery, my husband and I are big winery fans, and there are a lot of great wineries in Indiana. And I just thought, wouldn't it be fun to write about a winery in Indiana as opposed to a winery in California or, on the West Coast, which is where most of stories that happen about wineries happen. Sure. So there are several really great wineries in Indiana, and I have a friend who owns a winery here, and so she's been a great resource. And there's a little town down on the Ohio River in Indiana called Madison, and it was sort of the inspiration for River's Edge. And it was just, another small town thing in another place I knew and loved. So, yeah. Well, I have to ask you, when you guys went up in the summer for Michigan, did you? When do they pick the blueberries? That's in the summertime, right? Yeah. Blueberries are usually in July, I think. Blueberries and raspberries, and probably in the hot months of July. Yeah. There's a really wonderful fruit stand on the way to Grand Haven that we stopped at every year and got cherries and peaches and all kinds of wonderful things, and blueberries. And I hadn't been to Michigan in a while, and a friend and I drove up for a writing vacation, and that little fruit stand is still there. Isn't that amazing? Wow. I asked because I'm here in San Antonio, and so we have blueberry plants in whiskey barrels. So, we're able to help with the soil and everything. We've got about, 6 or 8. And when it gets really cold here, cold for San Antonio, especially if it snowed, and it snowed twice in the past 6-7 years, we would get massive amounts of blueberries out of these plants. I think the best we got was 4 gallons one year. Wow. Yeah, it was huge. But it's interesting because I mentioned it to some friends, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm from Michigan, or, be at Wisconsin, and we go get the blueberries, and they'd be as big as the end of your thumb, and huge and
talk about going out and picking them and, the juice being everywhere, but it was totally worth it. So, I mean, it's just, and so I think about that, about like, get cold so we can have blueberries.
Blueberry farms and just berry farms in general are as prolific in Michigan as vineyards are in California. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. You drive down the highway and there's just row after row after row of berry bushes.
And it's interesting because a lot of people are like, they grow in cold climates. It's like, yeah, they do. Mm-hmm. They really love it. In fact, it was very interesting because, we were teaching our kids both Spanish and English. And, you have the thing for apple and banana and all this stuff from Spanish. And we got to blueberry, and I couldn't find it. And a lot of, Central Mexico, into Mexico and Central America, they don't grow them because it's too hot. And then we'd get the fruit in different times of year from Chile, and it would say blueberries. We're like, oh, yay. But it would be in French, say bleuettes. And we're like, wait, what are blueberries? So I was going to the grocery store, and, our local grocery store, and there was several people I talked to, and I'd ask, do you speak Spanish? They'd say yes. It's like, what's blueberry in Spanish? And they'd stand there and look at me and go, I don't know. It's so a friend of mine was saying, you're going to make the whole Spanish-speaking population of San Antonio insane because everyone's trying to remember how to, So it was funny because finally one of the cashiers actually had written it down to save it for me, to give it to me. Because she'd called her family down and, so it was like, oh, okay. And now, of course, I'm telling the story and I can't remember what it is. But it's just one of those things that you assume that, well, everybody's got a name for this fruit, right? Or this whatever. And nope. But they grow stuff there that we can't grow in, can't grow in Michigan. So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so that's what's so cool about your stories, because you pull in these wonderfully regional layers of whether it be, the weather or the appearance, the lake or the food and now the wine. So you're bringing all that in. So it just really makes this really lovely layers of the story.
Thank you.
So tell me, you started writing this series for the Irish Brothers. Tell me about this one that's coming out next week on the 16th, The Baby Contract.
The Baby Contract is the fourth brother. The other three have all had their little happily ever afters, and it was his turn. I thought he was going to be the hardest one to write because he's a little different, a little quirky, and yet his story was just so incredibly fun to write because I confess to you there's a lot of my son and husband in this character. He's an engineer who became an analyst. My son is an engineer who became an analyst. And just this, this kind of very literal nature. But also just the biggest, kindest heart. And Brendan always wants to fix everything for everybody. He believes he can do that. And most of the time he can. And so that's how the premise of him fixing this problem that his friend Tierney was having of, she wanted a baby, but she wasn't with anyone. She's 34. Her biological clock is ticking. And he's not with anyone either. And he's always looked after her. Her big brother was his best friend, and her big brother, Mike, was killed in Iraq. And so he's kind of looked after her since that and kind of been like a big brother to her. And so this is just, like one more thing he thinks he can fix for her. Well, yeah, sure, let's do that. You don't have to go pay a sperm bank for this. I'll help you get pregnant. But when he says it,
very analytical, very, problem solution.
Yes, right? exactly. But his solution comes from his family life, which is we'll just get married and have a baby. And her solution was, I want you to go, all I need are your little swimmers. That's all I need.
Are your swimmers?
He's just like, yeah, I'm horrified, So that's how the Baby Contract comes about. That they create a contract between the two of them that they're going to give this a shot. She's going to do it his way and try it, but they're both free to get out of it if one of them falls in love with someone else or it just isn't working or whatever, and then they'll just get a divorce and be like divorced parents, and it'll all be fine. but they don't anticipate that they're going to fall in love. So
right. The heart always gets in the way. It makes things messy, you know? It does.
It really does. Yes, it
Good
does.
for us, though.
So, yeah. So anyway, he's just such a fun character to write, and the story was so much fun to write. I really enjoyed it. And the brothers, there's a lot of interaction between the four brothers, which has kind of been the theme throughout the entire series, is this relationship between the four brothers and how they all come back home to try to make this winery that the four of them have inherited from their father a success. So
yeah, and I think having the sibling back and forth, it really brings in a level of, a lot of us have. We have siblings, whether they're our actual siblings, they're our friends, our like siblings, our cousins. That family element. I think that really makes it a lot of fun.
I think it does too, and I've had people say, we love the back and forth between the brothers, and that's a lot of that's right from my own life, because I had two sisters. One of them has passed away, but I had a brother, and we were always driving each other crazy, and but keeping tabs on each other and being there for each other, and so that's that whole family thing was.
Do you bring
really
in
important
conversations that you had with your siblings, or do you, like when you're writing somewhere, do you bring that in, like you're hearing somebody talk about it, or just take notes? How do you kind of collect little scenes or moments or things for your stories, or is it just very organic?
I think it's more organic. A lot of times just the how do I want to say this, the feeling between them comes out at not exact word for word conversations, but like there's a scene in The Baby Contract where three of the brothers are trying to work on something in the winery, and Brendan comes in and just rolls his eyes because what they're doing is stupid, and he's like, I cannot believe, and he calls them Mo, Curly, and Larry, which is something my sister would totally do to us. She would totally say something like that. So that kind of exchange between the brothers is really kind of from my own life, because we all gave each other a hard time, and my oldest sister would always just roll her eyes at the rest of us like we were idiots, and so but she loved us, and she'd do anything to take care of us, so it all worked out.
Right. Right. It's always like we might be fighting right now or not getting along or joking with each other, but we know we'd fight a bear for each other. Yeah, it's that kind of
exactly
bond.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then you told us just a little bit ago that you've got more books coming from this series, yes?
Well, not actually from this series, but Julie asked me if I would like to write another series, and of course, I'd love to. We talked about it for a little while. Yeah, who doesn't want to keep
working for Jane Porter, right? I mean,
oh my, she is so amazing. She's just the most amazing person. I'm so crazy about her. Anyway, so we had a long talk, my editor Sinclair and I, and I said, what would you think about me staying in the same little town and just coming up with another family? And she said, I think that's wonderful. And I just read a review of The Baby Contract this morning, and the review made some mention of, we're going to miss this so much. And so I'm excited to say, you're not going to miss them, because the four brothers are going to be in the other series. They're going to make a little appearance here and there. And the first book, I think, is going to be out in February of 2022, and then the other two right after. It'll be three brothers this time, three first responders in the same family. And we have a policeman and a firefighter and an emergency room doctor. So
nice.
These guys grew up kind of hard, and so it's going to be fun to write them. They grew up without a dad, and so did I. So I can kind of identify. And their mom was just a hard-working nurse, as my mother was for a long time before she went on further in her education. And so there's a lot of my own background is going to come into these guys. So I'm excited about writing them. I'm already having a good time with the first one. So
I bet.
And
so
we get to stay in
who's the first
River's
one?
Edge. The first one is Riker, and their last name is Lang. They're the Lang brothers. And the first one is Riker, and he's the policeman. And it's kind of the transition book, because who he's going to be involved with is a cousin of the 4 Irish brothers who's come from Ireland. After having her heart broken terribly in Ireland, she comes to help them as the marketing director for the winery, because the winery has gotten to be such a big enterprise that they need to bring some new people on. And so they brought their cousin Kathleen. That's my sister who passed away. Her name is Kathleen. So she's named after my sister. But they call her Kit. And she and Riker are the main characters. So, and she is determined that she is not ever going to fall in love again, because it's just too painful. And he's kind of always been a playboy, and pretty much always had any woman he wanted. And so, we'll see how they do.
Right. I have a feeling that she's really going to make him work hard for it. Rightly so. Yeah. Yeah. She's going to make him work hard. But he is up to the challenge. So it's fun to watch that. It's as a writer, I know a lot of people, and they've asked you, I'm sure, over the years, is well, how do you come up with these ideas, and how do you and it's really for me, and it's kind of like, well, you just kind of watch human nature, because it's, oh, well, look at that couple, or look at that guy, I wonder what he's doing, and we would do that in the car with my kids. It's like, oh, look, that person's got that sticker on there, like Disney World sticker. When do you think they went to? Do you think Disney World or Disney? It's like you start to craft that idea, and then it just kind of progresses. But it's fun, especially when the characters go, no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Yes, that's funny, because that happened in the baby contract. It happens in every book, but it happens so big in the baby contract that I always talk to my friend Liz Flaherty, who is another amazing author, by the way. If you haven't read Liz, I totally recommend everything she's written. And she and I talk every morning on GChat. And one morning I sent her a note, and I said, "You're not going to believe what Brendan just did." And it's so funny when that happens, because you're like, wait a minute, I did not plan that. But it turned out to be, a really cool part of the story, and it brought their HEA together really well. And so I was excited about it, but it was so like, oh my gosh, I never thought about, they take off on their own. I don't know if that happens to you, but it happens to me. They just take off on their own. I'm like, okay, right, that's what you want to do. We'll go with it. See what happens. It is. It's really interesting, because you're like, wait, okay. And I can only imagine, if someone's watching me type while I'm creating the scene, the looks on my faces are like, wait, what? Oh, okay. And like you're actually having a conversation with someone. Yes. And I am really bad about reading things out loud. Like, I'll write something and then I'll read it out loud to myself, because that's the edit. I'm an editor too, and the editor in me wants to hear that flow. I want to hear it flow, and so I have to read it out loud. And so I know my husband. He always knows when I'm writing, because he hears me in here talking, or sometimes I'll have the conversation before I write it. I've done that too. So
yes, because you do sometimes you'll leave little words out. It's like, oh wait, I left this out, or because you assume you've written it, but to hear it out loud. I have a really good friend of mine. She has dyslexia, and so she will write, and then she will have it read back to her, because sometimes those little words will be missed, or she reads it a certain way, but that's not how the structure of the sentence is. So reading out loud, I think, is a great way to figure out if you've got everything in there. So so with the winery, you've always loved wine. Do you?
Oh yeah.
Highlight a certain kind of wine in the series? Are they going to expand the winery? What do you have planned for that end of it?
Well, the winery has grown over the 4 books, because in the very first book, the father had been the winemaker, and Connor, the son number 2, had been kind of apprenticing under his father to learn how to make wine, but his father died, and so he had to take over making wine. His other brothers were gone; they weren't there, and so this is, I'm starting to sound like I don't know, like I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm not, I promise. The official wine, the official grape of Indiana is Treminette. It's a white grape. It makes a kind of a Riesling-y type wine, real crisp and very tasty, a little grapefruit aftertaste. And there are wineries that make it sparkling, so that is yummy. So I thought that the sparkling Treminette would be a fun wine for them to make, and so they're making that one. And I really wanted Indiana wineries to be highlighted in these books because people think that there's only corn in Indiana, and that's not true. There's something like, at last count, I want to say there were maybe close to 50 wineries in Indiana, and they all do a really good job. Now, granted, there are grapes that won't grow here that will grow in places like California or the Central Coast Valley or in Michigan, or not Michigan, in Oregon or Washington and places like that. So a lot of winemakers in Indiana will import grapes from California to make things like Zinfandel and Pinot Noir and that kind of thing. But the grapes they make from grapes that grow in Indiana, Cab Franc is one that they make in Indiana, and they do a really excellent job. And so as we've traveled around the state and met winemakers, and gone to different wineries and tasted wines, I just thought it would be fun to bring that element of the state of Indiana to the rest of the romance world. I don't know about the rest of the world, but the romance world anyway. Yeah. And, So, but a lot of what I know about wine, I learned in California. In 2002, our son got married and moved to California. And so, that meant a lot of trips to California. Right. And we went from being people who really knew nothing about wine at all to every trip we would go out, we'd go to a different winery and learn more about wine. And we learned all about, wine pairing and what wines are supposed to taste like. And, we all have our own palate. And a winemaker in California once said to me, if you like it, it's a good wine. Yeah, exactly. So I've tried to maintain that concept in these books, and to make wine, I don't know, I think just more accessible, because I think a lot of times people think if you like wine, you're going to be a wine snob. And I don't know if I'm a wine snob or not. I know what I like, and I like dry reds mostly. But I'm open to anything, because I just think wine is wonderful. It's a wondrous product, and I love that I was able to bring that to my books and share that, because it's something that I love, that both my husband and I and my son and my daughter-in-law, we all just love wine, and so it's kind of fun to bring that element of our lives into my stories.
Yeah, there was years ago, my husband and I, we were in Missouri, and we hadn't had children yet, and we found this great little video called "Wine for the Confused" by John Cleese, and he talks about that, and it's about he and his wife just take these different trips up the California coast, and they just stop in these different wineries, and it just basically came down to drink the wine you like. Nobody cares, and just have fun with it, and that's the point of it all.
Yes. We do have, so much fun with it. Yeah, we have a great time with it. And, it's just been fun. It's been a fun new addition to our family, because, before our son went to California, we didn't know anything about wine. And it's just been really cool to learn and, as I said, to bring that into these books. So it's been, it's been fun. I really like it.
Well, Texas has had a growing winery industry as well, and they're starting to offer the viniculture degrees from a couple of different, like A&M, I believe, has one, and Texas Tech. And then locally here, the community college has started offering some classes and certifications. So it's interesting. Of course, a lot of the people around here, some will grow just the grapes, which is something I really didn't appreciate, that some people just grow the grapes and they don't do the wine. And then some people actually will come and take the, the peel and all that stuff and then make beauty products out of it, like venotherapy. So you'll make scrubs and you'll make, lotions, and you'll make, it's just like, it's really interesting how basically the whole fruit is used, like everything about it is used. So it's a very cool fruit because it just comes in all these flavors.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is.
We went on a cruise a few years ago, and they did it was a wine and chocolate tasting, and it turned out to be and it was it was sea day, so no one's going to shore. So we were on there, and it was they had all these different chocolates, and then it had all these different alcohols. And so you had white chocolate and dark chocolate, and you had a mix, and you had milk chocolate. Then you also had like this paste, chocolate paste, and you had these crackers, and so we tried all these different wines, and then champagne, and then whiskey. And it was just, it was amazing. And they had cheese. So it was like, okay, don't drink it. Now sit there for a second and bite the cheese. Now drink it. It was just like the layering. It was its own, own class on how to layer the flavors.
That is so fun. In the back of Meant to Be, the second book in the series, I have a little pretend trip down to the winery because you write about these places and then you think, wow, I'd really love to go there. So I did. And Mac, who is the French-trained chef who has the diner in town, and the brothers all sat down together with me, and we did a wine and food pairing and tasting. And it was so much fun to create these, to have Mac, the chef, create these dishes to go with these wines. And I just had the best time with that. And I wrote it. I wasn't sure if they would want to use it or not in the book, but I thought, it's fun. I'll give it a shot. So it's like a little bonus thing in the back of the book. And they loved it. They had such a good time with it. And so I thought, what a treat. So that was kind of a fun thing to add to one of the books, was to talk about wine and food pairings. So will Mac have his own spin-off and some recipes and such? Will he be throwing stuff out? Well, there is a recipe on my website that's for Mac's salmon rillette, which they use in Meant to Be for Sam and Connor's wedding. Sam's mom is involved with Mac now, and I had thought seriously that that would be a great seasoned romance. However, their story's just there, and there's really nothing more to say except that Mac and Carly are an item, and so they're an item in every book, and they're an item in this new book, in the new series that I'm writing. Mac and Carly are there, and they're involved with each other. So their story's just kind of coming along in everybody else's books. And
you should do a little, what if you did a little novelette, like talking about them planning their wedding, and then they don't agree on what to have at the reception and what to serve, and then there's a falling out, and then they get back together again, and like do the the whole little novelette, like
that would be
crisis thing.
Yeah,
it would be.
That's
you should
a little bonus Christmas book or something. Yeah, that would be fun.
I know. Yeah, you could think about all the layering you could do, like all the food and the wine and all the taste testing. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, you are such a writer. Oh my stars.
It's incredible.
Because we all do that. Liz and I do that to each other all the time. We'll go, hey, what if you did this? Or she'll say to me, how about this?
Yeah,
so
I know.
Okay.
We've got, there's a little group of us that talk almost every day, just kind of, throw stuff out like, how's everybody? And then, if somebody throws something down that's crazy in the news or just something crazy that happened in their neighborhood, people are like, oh, you know what would happen? You know what we should do? So, yeah, it's always fun to throw that down.
It is.
One of the first things I remember about wine, I was a kid, and my grandmother, my grandparents had stayed in Europe for 10 years. He worked for Rockwell, and they stayed there until he retired. And they were in Switzerland for part of the time, and then London. And so she told me when they came back, because they did a lot of dinner parties. It was the 70s, 60s, and 70s, a lot of dinner parties. And she said to me one day, she's like, do you know why you clink glasses when you say cheers? And I said, I don't. She's like, because it includes all 5 senses when you drink wine.
I'll be darned. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know
that. So
that.
that's why you clink glasses, because that's how you get the hearing of the wine. So you get the taste, the smell,
cool.
the sight, the touch, and then the hearing. Yeah, the sound.
I knew about the swirl, the sniff, the swirl. You swirl, sniff, swirl. Where you look, you sniff, you swirl. You sniff again, and then you sip, and then you savor. I knew about the S's, but I didn't know about the clinking. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks
So I always think
that,
about her whenever, we cheers. I think that's kind of a cool thing to remember someone by, that little just everyday thing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's just husband and me, or if it's the family or whoever I'm with. If we have wine, the first sip, we always clink.
Yeah.
And sip. And if you clink and don't sip, people will say to you, hey, wait, you got to sip.
Yeah.
Because it's bad luck if you clink and don't sip. So.
Right.
But he and I always toast each other no matter what. So.
Yeah. And why not?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Because it's fun and it's cool.
It is.
So we have about 3 minutes left. And what other projects do you have other than the obviously 3 books coming out? I mean, do you have any other little nuggets of something coming up in the next year or so, 6 months?
Except for the baby contract coming out on the next week. That's pretty much it.
Right.
And writing. And I'm also a freelance copy editor. And so I do copy editing for a lot of different publishers. And so I've always got that going. And I'm, we have the grand boy, and so there's, lots of fun stuff always happening, except that right now not a lot's happening because we're all kind of inside. So but that's okay. And it's an opportunity to work and write, and that's how I've tried to see all this. It's just an opportunity. And to stay healthy and safe, and
you also are giving people an escapism, because I think so much right now people really need that moment to just say, I'm going to check out for an hour, just for the sanity.
I think so too.
Value.
And that, and my books are all about the checking out. We are somewhere else entirely, and that's great.
Right.
My sister Pam has always maintained that Nan's place is a nice world, but there's nothing real about it. Nan's world is not real, but it's okay. It's a nice place. And, we're all happy here, so it's okay.
It is okay.
I think that's a good thing for us to provide. So
yes.
I'm happy
and
to
I think
that
sometimes, too, I'll sit there and I'll go, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And when I have a friend of mine, I recommended some books to her, and it was very... just by, sure, read these. And she writes to me later, and she's a certified nurse anesthetist, and she wrote to me, goes, thank you so much. Those books were just wonderful to read out, completely something else to do. And I think, okay. It's I think if we just all keep doing those little things every day, it will get us all through this.
Yes, and we will. We
pretty
will
well.
Through it. I don't have a moment's doubt. We just have to be patient and strong, and and have faith, and so, and that's what keeps me writing. So keep doing it.
That and really good wine.
Those 2 things, yes, absolutely.
Well, throw some chocolate in there every once in a while. That'll kind of mix it up.
That is great advice.
Yes,
actually, in the new book I'm writing, she's going to do a little wine and chocolate event, so I was glad you mentioned that.
Yes, keep us posted. So if anybody wants to find Nan, she is at NanReinhardt.com. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Her latest book, The Baby Contract, comes out July 16th, so that is next week. Go ahead and pre-order, and it gives you just enough time to read the other 3 books in the series, so you're all caught up when you read it, but you can read it alone, but you would feel better about yourself if you read all 4. So this has been Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio. Keep reading, everyone, and thank you again, Nan, for coming to see us.
Thanks so much for having me, Patricia. It's been great to talk to you.
This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
From the excitement of nominations to the applause after the opening of an envelope at the big award shows, The Hollywood Reporter is your source for the inside scoop on the moments leading up to and celebrating the wins of your favorite films, actors, and all the people that made them. Follow the race at HollywoodReporter.com for predictions, reviews, and voters. Check out the THR Awards Hub for everything you need for award season coverage. Visit THR.com today and subscribe to our newsletters so you don't miss a beat.
It's intern John. Football is finally back, and Safeway's making sure you're the MVP. Spend more time enjoying the game and get your groceries delivered in as soon as 30 minutes. Download the Safeway mobile app to shop for delivery or pickup, plus find hundreds of digital deals and earn rewards points for free grocery items, or redeem up to $1 per gallon on gas at Safeway or participating Exxon or Mobil fuel stations. Safeway, fresh food, local flavors.